Oh, Pokemon Company, you have some splaining to do! You straight up disqualified players for bringing in Pokemon that only know Metronome. Frankly, if Metronome was not allowed, then why do Pokemon have access to that move? Or is it because those players had done it in protest? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the actual fuller context of the situation. So from Nash on Twitter, there's a post explaining the situation, so let's take a look. How top Korean players ended up DQ'd for Metronome. Hello, this is Nash. I've been asked a lot of what's been happening in Korea and how we ended up locking in Metronome in national finals only to be disqualified for doing so. I am writing this down to explain to those interested. So I'm not sure if you've been catching up with the issues all around the Asian circuit, but like other Asian regions, Korea has been having a rather suffering year. Here are some major events that happened in sequential order. 0. Before we go in, a little bit of background in Korean VGC format. Before COVID, we used to have 3 different IRL events that led up to finals in which each gave out CP. This circuit point is exclusive in Korea, as we have an independent circuit as Japan does. Last IRL event as such was back in 2019, and the South Korean VGC community has never seen one since. They only gave one online double elim tournament Trainers Cup each year, and that was it. Last year, when Worlds was back, players were curious as to how Pokemon Korea plans to give invites. No explanations were made, and they proceeded with Trainers Cup, the online tour, like before. After the tour, they suddenly announced that top 4 of Trainers Cup will be invited to Day 2 at Worlds. This was excluding juniors and seniors since the tour was only eligible for Masters. 2. This year, again, they announced nothing until March. In March, they announced that our circuit will be as written here, with a link provided. Basically, they gave invites to Trainers Cup for top 50 Korean players of each global challenge, and then the 150 players competed in the best of 1 ladder tour. Top 4 gets Day 2, top 16 gets Day 1. People were very frustrated that we are deciding everything in just 10 games of ladder. Also, this format is vulnerable to sub-accounts and match manipulation. And then, just like Japan, Ray Rizzo experienced this, we had multiple issues. People were getting rematch after rematch and could not stop playing during the tour. Pokemon Korea decided that this tour is invalid and that top 16 from this tour will get unqualified. People who went top 16 here demanded compensation, and Pokemon Korea decided to give them an invite to next year's Trainers Cup. This is basically just nothing, since reaching Trainers Cup was just getting 1600 in Global Challenge, nothing even close to top cutting it. This was devastating message, implying our format will remain this way next year. 2 weeks later, we played the ladder tour again with updated data which fixed the previous anomalies. 3. Blue, Sangyun, Mi, and Mija, hope I'm saying all these right, my apologies in advance if I butchering pronunciations of the names, were the top 4 of the second ladder tour, which meant we were secured Day 2 invites. But in order to do that, we had to show up at the Trainers Cup final round, a streamed match. It's just a final round that decides 1st to 4th with some nice prizes, but we're already locked in Day 2, so not much was at stake. The 4 decided to go on Metronome battle to protest against all these issues within our community. No in real life events, constant problems in tour system, disregarding younger divisions, absurd compensations for the problems they caused, but the real problem behind all this is that they show absolute disrespect to our players. Number 4, during this week, Pokemon Korea suddenly sends an email to Blue disqualifying him without telling him why. When he called them to ask why, they refused to answer. they immediately gave his day 2 to Batago. Again, hope I'm saying that right. Batago agreed with the 3 of us, so the Metronome battle was to proceed. We had to lock in on an in-game online tour system beforehand, so we did that yesterday, 2nd of June. We were supposed to battle on the 4th. Number 5, today, 3rd, all 4 players were sent an email along with the notice on the official website and Pokemon Korea Inc. account, Twitter, informing us that all 4 of us were disqualified. The reasoning behind it was that we all locked in Pokemons that learned one specific move. According to Pokemon Korea, this falls into prohibited acts written below, an act of causing harm to other participants or giving an offensive image. Other actions that Nintendo Co. Limited and TPC and its subsidiaries deem inappropriate. Pokemon Korea saw our teams didn't like it and therefore disqualified all 4 of us for playing Metronome. My apologies for that long read, ladies and gentlemen, but I wanted to get as much context out there, and we ain't done yet, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going. So because of how the event is handled, those players wanted to protest as they felt disrespected. Look, I know Asian companies take their brands and images very seriously, but this stunt where you, Pokemon Company, only really hurts your brand. Let me explain. So instead of straight up disqualifying those players, you could have sent out a representative to them and had an actual conversation about what is going on, then take steps to better the events. Now don't get me wrong, the Pokemon Company has every legal right to run their tournaments any way they see fit. But that doesn't mean the only recourse is to disqualify those players who worked really hard to make it to Worlds. But what bothers me the most is what Miluka VGC put out, which essentially has the Pokemon Company of Korea acting as if they disqualified the 4 players under the basis of them doing something actually forbidden, like cheating, let alone abusing the rule, anything TPC finds inappropriate. Frankly, rules like that are a real issue. Like, imagine outside of Pokemon that a person says the sky is blue in a park, but then people who run the park kick you out because they were offended by a fact. I know that was a bit of an extreme comparison, but that's really the best I got here in this situation, and those are the type of vibes I personally get out of this. That type of rule is way too vague. What if a person brings a really weird Pokemon choice with an even weirder set, and the Pokemon Company says, hey, we are going to disqualify you because what you're doing with that Pokemon is inappropriate? Why should that even be tolerated by the players? And then you have people like Verlisify saying this type of schlock. So, the rule that he cites cannot legally apply to Metronome. The players in question did not bribe or coerce each other. They all agreed to use Metronome with the intent to win, which is what the game is deciding who wins effectively, if they all got matched up with each other at all. But hey, we all know Verlisify has the intellect that is rivaled only by the dullest of garden tools. So, moving on, my closing thoughts are this. Pokemon Company, you need to do better. Treat your players with respect and run your events better.